Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Bi-Weekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Well, the December 9th, 2025 Exeter Conservation Commission meeting to order. And first, we'll go through the introduction of members, starting down there with Nick.
Good evening, Nick Campion.
Valerie Fanger.
Connor Madison.
Dave Short.
Andrew Goff.
Keith Whitehouse.
Michelle Crapo, alternate.
Kyle Welch, alternate.
Bill Campbell, alternate.
Kristen Murphy, Conservation and Sustainability Planner for the town.
Dan Chartrand, Select Board Rep to the Conservation Commission.
All right. Any public comment that's not related to an agenda item? Okay.
We do. You got tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would be
sure.
great, actually.
No podium.
Hi, folks. My name is Silas Richards. I'm a resident over on Lincoln Street. I'm an avid user of the town's conservation lands, and I really appreciate the work that you folks are doing. I'm here talking about the bicycle pedestrian master plan and how that ties into complete streets and active mobility inside this town. In the bike and pedestrian master plan, there's discussion of an emerald necklace, and I think that this commission has a great opportunity to tie some of our conservation pieces together in a way that people can use active transportation, whether that's their bikes or walking or running, to connect to different parcels. When I think about the prospects of potentially using our utility lines, such as our power lines or our gas lines, we can pretty easily connect New Hampshire 85, Epping Road, and Watson Roads. But that would take working with the current utilities. We also have an extensive network of trails, and I think leveraging these as a pedestrian corridor could lead to safer trips. But in the same breath, I would like to see this commission participate in a collaborative manner to ensure that any disruptions to the existing trail network do not interfere or take away from many of the draws that bring people to Exeter to mountain bike. Additionally, in multiple conversations, the 101 interchange on Epping Road has been identified as being extraordinarily dangerous for cyclists and pedestrians. So I'd like this commission to consider working with private property owners to connect up possibly the Connor Farm using our existing conserved properties to bypass that interchange for a pedestrian pathway. I know that these changes are very lofty, but represent a great way to meet the spirit of the master plan connectivity chapter and the desires indicated in the bike and pedestrian plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, what would help further that effort would be potentially sketching out what you're talking about and presenting it to us.
All right.
So,
Put that in writing.
so we've got something visual. Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you know anyone that controls the agenda for this committee? So you would talk to Dave to get on the agenda for that?
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we good. We did talk?
No, he's saying you
No,
could.
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
would be
Make
the
it
person you would
official.
Yes,
approach to get on
yeah.
the agenda.
Or the real boss, Kristen.
The boss of all bosses.
All right. Next, we've got a trail maintenance update and future project discussion. And I see we have a few representatives here. I don't know who's speaking, but.
Well, I guess I will.
Sure.
Do you guys want to take my spot so you can speak?
No, it's okay.
You're good, okay.
Hello, everyone. My name's Dan Longcope. I'm a town resident and mountain biker, avid trail user in the Fort Rock Trail Network. Representative of the Fort Rock Riders, and as I like to say, a member of the subgroup called the Fort Rock Builders. So the Fort Rock Riders is a fairly loose ragtag group, really based off of this Facebook page. As you can see there's 2.1 thousand members who are part of this group. Many of them were seen showing up to help fight for the rug property. And what given what's gone on there, we have, looking towards the future, we have a series of trails that are going to be left once that development takes place that have really not been given much attention over the last arguably 20 years, 18 to 20 years, certainly in the years that I've been riding here. There are bridges that we are just now putting some screws into that haven't been touched in many years. So I've been someone who for the last 14 years, I think, I've been out doing trail maintenance, one of the groups, one of the members of the Fort Rock Riders who will go out. We use this website quite often to communicate issues. If there's trees down, if there's muddy sections, if there's after storm cleanup, we'll use the Facebook page to communicate issues, and then I'm one of the people who will go out and address those issues. I've also been someone who just goes out and on my own, and I do my own pruning, bridge repair and whatnot, and I've been doing that for years. And recently was injured and couldn't ride, so I started initiating taking advantage of the drought conditions to start building some bridges. So utilizing the Facebook page and putting the word out into the community. This presentation is really not directly what I'm talking about, but this is pointing out more about the Facebook page and what we utilize it for. Making sure that our community, focused mostly on the mountain bikers, but also other users of the trails, are able to understand what's going on in the trail network at any given time. We have done a bunch of fundraising events. I'm going to steer my talk more to this, and then I'll branch off a little bit more. But we've done a bunch of fundraising to support the trail networks, including signage. We raised a bunch of money for Snow Dog. So Snow Dogs, it's a grooming tool for winter use of the trail network. We raised, I think, twice the amount required.
Yeah, we bought a Snow Dog, which is about $3,500 purchase. Hi, my name's Alex. We bought a Snow Dog, which is about a $3,500 purchase, but we raised about $7,000 in about 4 days, which allowed us to extend that to maintenance of the Snow Dog, as well as gas and a trailer to haul it. So I guess the bottom line here is this is a very active community that is very willing to chip in to not only help do work, but also to fund the work.
Yeah. And this has reflected recently with the work that I started this past fall, where we raised enough money to fund 5 bridge building days, which we went out and I posted on the website, and we had anywhere between 8 and 12 people show up on any one of those given days to help build bridges. And it started with an attempt to address some issues on the ancillary, sort of the private property bridges. So the area off of the Commerce Way, up behind C3? Yeah. And because that beaver pond is so low and the river that comes down through it, or the stream, is completely dry, it was a great opportunity to go out and start building some bridges on what is not always a dry surface. So we've been building bridges. We started there, and then we moved through various locations throughout Fort Rock where we addressed areas that are not typically dry. So one of the biggest areas, and I don't know...
Dan, excuse me a second.
Yeah.
And this is primarily repair and replacement of existing
Yes.
bridges? Yes.
Primarily, yes. Yes, I will say yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's been as far as inside of the core of Fort Rock. So the ancillary stuff, the private land, the items on private land, those were some new bridges, but what is in on Exeter property has been repair and replace. And we've gone in, we've done a bunch of work on bridges that, like I said, hadn't been addressed in at least 15 to 18 years, I think, from when NEMBA first went and built them. NEMBA is the New England Mountain Biking Association, back in the early 2000s. And so we've really been making this effort to address the needs of this trail network that is going to get a lot more use when people start coming south. So right now, the majority of mountain bike activity occurs on that northern property, based out of the Watson or Deer Trees lots. It's focused on the trails that were built 3 years ago. It was right about 3 years ago. It was late November, early December, where new trails were built.
A lot of it on the rug property.
Yes, yeah. On those, and much of that traffic, because of that trail development, much of the mountain biking traffic has been up there. Now, when that goes away, people are going to want to ride other places. And there are established trails throughout the core of Fort Rock, coming down from power line. And, sorry, do we have a map here?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in for a second.
Okay.
So like Dan, I've been riding the trails since the late 90s. And I've worked at Timberland since that time, and this was always my local trail network. But some of the images you saw were Derek or his employees actually using some of their equipment. As you know, Derek really promoted trail growth on his property for all the right reasons at the time, and got this community really involved in that effort. And so, as Dan said, we've turned our attention, knowing that that's going to be developed, to replacing some of the really older bridges that hadn't been touched, as Dan said, for almost 2 decades. And so now we're taking a more strategic view as a user group, and thinking about how to make the trails accessible for everybody. So as we've done trail work recently, we've expanded from 12-inch wide bridges that are some mountain bikers see as a challenge to things that dog walkers and cross-country skiers are happy to see expand to 2 feet wide, for example. Dan's worked with Exeter Lumber to get lumber purchases to do some of this repair work and mobilize the crew. But as the last slide shows, is that there's a desire to get in front of your group to talk about the work we're doing to do repair on a more strategic sense, and to think about it holistically, think about the loss of the rug property, think about how we make connections between what has been this intensive use out of the Watson lot, accessing the rug property and all the trail growth that's happened there, and knowing that that will likely be going away, and how we, there's been parking challenges at Deer Trees, parking challenges at Watson. We recognize that the area behind the rinks and the trestle are 2 very good parking areas, but there's a real challenge getting from essentially the south to the north through the tunnel. Really hard trails there, really inaccessible for most riders. So we wanted to get in front of this group and take all this energy from our user group, talk to you about strategy, talk about how to mobilize this great volunteer effort, this very capable funding mechanism we have through this trail group, and how to leverage that for some strategic thinking about the property for not just mountain bikers, but for all user groups, knowing that the most intensive area, 140 some odd acres, is potentially going away, and the attention will be put into essentially the property that you all manage.
Thank you, Alex.
And it's not just bridges,
It's not just bridges.
because the trails
Yes, thank you.
have gotten worn out over the years.
Yes.
And there's going to have to be work done anticipating the intensity of the use going up.
Yeah. And I'm happy to come back with more details of some of the trail networks, but some of these core trails. So we're talking about this property that is mostly ridden up here is all this network with this tight net, web of trails that was created over the last 3 years. And this section down through here is our older, less established or less well-ridden trails. And the main issue that Alex was talking about is that, so if we're down here, this is Commerce Way, down in this area. And to get from here to there is all extremely eroded, exposed, dangerous, really, even for runners or mountain bikers. It's all advanced technical terrain. So one of the things we did was recently take this 12-inch wide plank bridge and made it a 2-foot wide bridge. And one thing I've definitely realized in all these trail days is that I think of this as a mountain biking destination. It's there's only a portion, certainly coming out of the parking lots in the first accessible areas of trail. There's a lot of dog walkers. There's a lot of hikers. There's a lot of people out doing activities not on bicycles. And so we've been really working to make sure that what we do is inclusive of those people, and we've got a lot of appreciation for those efforts.
Yeah, I can just second that. We spent maybe 6 hours on one section of a trail called 50/50 doing some bridge replacement. I'd say out of the 12 users we saw, 8 of them were dog walkers,
Yeah.
2 of them were hikers with no dogs, and 2 mountain bikers or so. Just for orientation purposes, what this is, if you're all familiar with Strava, it's an athletic kind of tracking software for runners, every kind of user, but this is what they call their heat map. And so the brighter, this is the trail network, obviously the conventional map, the Strava heat map, the brighter colors show increased usage, okay? So looking at like the kind of view of the region, Mount Agamenticus, Stratham Hill Park, Fort Rock, the Rockingham Recreational Trail, Massabesic, and Bear Brook, okay? So this is Fort Rock. To make the point clear that Dana was making, the most intense area of usage is the Rug property. The second most intense area of usage is kind of Fort Rock proper, south of 101. Much less usage connecting between the two. And that's kind of a problem because everyone wants to ride here and everyone wants to park here. And there's parking challenges here at Deer Trees. This is a great place to park. Great, we do 50-person rides sometimes. Ample parking, the industrial park, they're closed when we ride at night, they're closed when we ride on the weekend. How do we get the user group through the tunnel and to connect the whole network is kind of the strategy that we want to talk to you about. And we have all this energy and funds to do the work, and we just want to get on your radar and talk about that from a more strategic point of view.
Because not only are these trails old and on service for a long time, they're really eroded and really, like I mentioned, dangerous and technical. But they're not skinny little, what we call single track trails. They're upwards of 30 feet wide because there isn't a good way to get from here to there on a lot of these climbs, a lot of the hills. So people have just found their ways. And it's created a lot of destruction and a lot of widening of trails that don't need to be that wide. So that's part of this going forward. How do we address the issues on these trails that have become so eroded, where 15 years ago it was a little rock and now it's a fully exposed boulder. 15 years ago was one little root and now that's a 12-inch diameter massive thing that's now fully exposed in the trail.
Yeah, when you see our challenging sections, a lot of people love that, but some people just want to go around it. And so it just keeps making the trails bigger and bigger. So what a lot of trail networks do, and I'm sure you're very familiar, is that sections get closed and rerouted, and you can reopen, just kind of do let this regenerate for a couple of years. We haven't done any of that kind of work. We're just repairing bridges, and obviously we did new trail development on the Rug property a couple of years ago, but we haven't done that on public property. But that's the kind of thing that we need to start looking forward to doing, is looking at closures, regeneration, etc.
But we really want to do that inclusively. This is not to be done just for the mountain biking community, but it's for all users. Of course, our desire is to increase the fun and the use of on the mountain bikes. But we want to make sure that we're doing this and communicating with you all, and above board. No, we're not here to. We're here to make sure that there aren't rogue trails being built, but that we're doing things inside the boundaries of what's acceptable.
Yeah, I would add that that Facebook page is kind of the one and only community communication tool other than word of mouth. And it's very much used. We have some really responsible residents of town, another one being this guy, Toby Furden, who you may have met, really responsibly trying to get everyone to use the trails properly. So when there's trail closures, the page is telling you that. When there's people trying to blow leaves off the trails, we're saying, no, that's not the policy. When there's parking issues, we're using the page to communicate that. And so there's no there's no one power structure or formal organization. It's just the page that we use, and that's the tool we have right now. But yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan, did you have anything else you want to add?
I think you guys did a great job.
I guess I have a couple points.
Sure.
It's definitely interesting that the brightest parts are all on private property. And I think that a lot of that is because those trails are different than the ones that are on the Conservation Commission. They're ones that a new rider could go out and ride and not lose teeth or whatever that would likely happen on the trails that haven't been maintained. And so people ride those trails more often. As someone like I rode with my kids in these trails, and we would drive, even though we live kind of close to the south of 101, we'd drive north just because my kids couldn't ride on the trails that hadn't been maintained. And so I would say if you wanted to go through the tunnel, you have to be at least an intermediate rider just to be able to get there. You're going to be walking for half the time. And I also feel like the mountain bike community as a whole has been pretty respectful of the fact that we shouldn't mess with the conservation land trails just because they didn't want to get into kind of a conflict with the Conservation Commission. So I think it's great that you guys are coming here to start the discussion.
I think this core of Fort Rock has a reputation of being hard, and there is a inside of our community, the mountain biking community, as we move forward, if we're allowed to move forward with what we'd like to do, we're going to have to deal with people who want Fort Rock to stay hard, right? They want it to stay technical, but it doesn't work for everyone. It works for a very small portion of the riders because these trails are so hard, they're not easily used.
Well, it's like a ski mountain.
Yeah.
You get green, you got blue, you got black. It can't all be black.
It's all black out, for the most part out there. It's black.
Yeah.
And so, I guess as we move forward, we would like to, as I said, we'd like to work with you. We'd like to get feedback around concerns, comments. How can we best move forward? Because we would very much like to be able to move forward with developing and improving the existing trail network, potentially developing new trails if it's possible. And yeah, I think I should just stop talking and see if anybody has any questions.
Well, I just wanted to add that, like you, I have young kids that are getting into the sport, and they could never ride at Fort Rock. We live adjacent to Stratham Hill Park, and luckily it's easy. But that's all it is easy, and it's full of dog walkers with conflicts. My wife is on the trail committee there and can tell you about that. But we would love to build a diversity of trails here so people beyond just the expert mountain bikers can use Fort Rock. And that's really, I think, the success of what happened on the rug property was that everything was built from hard, basically black trails to blue to green, the full spectrum like a ski mountain would do. But we don't have that anywhere else, really. And that would be the next strategic step to do with you all and use our crew to make something like that happen. I mean, barring putting another tunnel under 101, I think we have some challenges to figure out how to build connectivity that is easy and accessible for everybody.
Mr. Chair, I just want to commend you all for taking lemons and making lemonade. Thanks for putting your efforts into this extremely valuable piece of property that's been set aside for exactly this reason. And I love the spirit that you're bringing to it of being inclusive. Good stuff. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So I'm actually a neighbor of the property on the northern side, just before you get into Newfields.
Can you state your name, please?
Sorry, Jonathan Everett. What we see here at the top right, as we mentioned, is the most heavily used, and also the bottom left, that's also private property, and that's heavily used. And so this shows us that if we do things correctly, we can create a trail system that, people will love. But right now, it's kind of interesting that it's only the private property where we've been successful. So what we're trying to do here is say, well, what have we learned from what we've done with the private property? Some of it, trails might be too dense, we understand that. but how can we move some of that heat map into the center? You know, the Exeter property that is here for Exeter and residents like myself and others to use. Really, we're just taking advantage of the generosity of the private property owners around the public land, but we're really not taking good advantage of the public land. So we're hoping to figure out how to take better advantage of that.
Thanks.
Do you have a list, like a top 10 wish list, you know, trail, blah, 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 we would like to do,
We certainly
or something
have
like
a
that?
couple, there's some things right off the top of my head. We talked about it, the accessibility to the way to get down to the tunnel, a way to get from the tunnel out to the power lines quickly and easily.
Because it would be helpful, at least for me, and
Yep.
you know, there's a lot of people on this committee, just to get a little bit more detail of what you have in mind, and then we can just kind of go down the list and say, yay, you know, what I mean, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I don't know, what do other people think?
I think, yes.
I would say, no, I appreciate all the effort, you know, and all the bridges, and that's amazing, all the work that goes into it with the Fort Rock Riders. We've had some of these conversations in the past, and this isn't like a new, well, it is a new topic in a way with the rug property in that change of use. But so a lot of these topics we have, you know, we've had ongoing conversations with our own group and with Fort Rock Riders and other trail users about this. And we have closed trails, like there were certain spur trails that we've closed pretty successfully with the help of Fort Rock Riders. We posted those signs. So I'm certainly open to rerouting existing trails potentially in some areas. It's challenging to do though with, you know, brushing in and all that. It's a lot of work to do anything out there trail maintenance wise. We have and the parking issue is real. We've talked about that too with Watson Road and how do you get more people. And that was one of the things we worked a few years ago. You were probably involved in that. When you come out of the tunnel to the north, there used to just be we had closed that middle route, and then it got rebuilt with the bridges there, and that part of that was to make the connectivity better.
Yeah.
And I think that is a good trail that gets used a lot rather than going left and up and around and back down. So if there are specific ideas of specific segments that could be rerouted in a way like that, I guess that's what I have in my mind as went from a hard trail to what's now very, very walkable, rideable section.
What about if we were to take the scope and break it into two parts? One, just so they keep their momentum going, repairing and maintaining existing structures and trails, because I don't think anybody has a problem with that. And if there's any idea of reroute or, you know, broadening the scope at all like that, then maybe coordinate a little closer with us. Because right now they've proven themselves to be pretty responsible in what they do. And I'd hate to see if we start throwing roadblocks out there, you know, the enthusiasm could easily wane. Right?
I wonder if it would help. I know some of you do bike out there. I haven't even been able to walk out there the last few years. But I wonder if the thing, as you get projects, you come in and let us know what they are, but also discuss them with the commission. As I know, as I said, several people have already, they're on your group or whatnot. And I think that the point being, keeping in touch would be great. And maybe there'd be some advice from the committee. And I appreciate the fact you funded some of this yourself. And I know that's happened in little groups in the past, which have then sort of drifted away a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really see a good, I think the Fort Rock Riders has been a great addition to our whole plan. And I would just like to keep that communication up with it here.
Dan, on this latest round of work that's gotten performed, what would you estimate the out-of-pocket money that's been spent on materials?
Around $2,000.
And that's all been funded by?
All
Yep.
with one email, one post on that Fort Rock Riders site with my Venmo.
Yeah.
And bing, 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 bing. I bought a new car. Yeah, so people have been very generous, you know,
But not
50 to
just
100.
that, I mean, how many man hours do you think have gone into?
Hundreds and
personnel hours?
hundreds, yeah. I mean, I know myself, it's been hundreds and hundreds just this fall.
Well, it's been 4 or 5 weekends at least, right?
Yeah, 5 weekends, and every weekend, you know, there's the prep day, and the, you know, they're 14 to 16-hour days for me, and the guys who've been showing up have been doing anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. I mean, these are long, hard, you know, lugging hundreds of pounds of lumber out into the woods and building out there, and the rock work is incredible. I mean, it's masonry that's been done out on these trails is incredible, the effort.
Yeah,
Really
I would just add that that's always the go-to. Start with rocks, right? There's plenty of them out there. We don't want to drag tons of pressure-treated wood into the forest if we don't have to, but obviously you have to cross some low areas and reduce erosion. But but we've got some really skilled people that literally do hardscape or masonry for a living. They're out there moving rocks. We've got carpenters doing carpentry. A lot of the work is just lugging things from the closest trailhead, hundreds of pounds of lumber in by hand, which is no easy task. But you know, if you've worked with any user group around trails, you know that the mountain bikers tend to be the most industrious. I think that's a universal case for trail use. And so we have this loosely affiliated group that's ready to go. So let's figure out how to point them in the right direction, I think is the key.
So I definitely, we can put together our hit list of things that we want to address, trail specific, that would be either reroutes or whatnot, and I can definitely put something together for the next meeting. One of the things I'd like to know from y'all is what are the absolute deal breakers? What are the things that just cannot be done? Because I need to tell you, like, you guys have been like the Commission of Doom, the Legion of Doom, as far as I've encountered. You know, I know several of you, but it is always, the Concom. Well, my thing is, well, we need to communicate, as Bill said. You know, we need to work together. We need to not go out and, as a riding community, we need to not be out doing road work. We need to be working with you. And so, you know, part of that is to knowing what are the cans and cannots. So I guess my question is, what are the things that are deal breakers?
I would ask Kristen to comment on that. If you would, just your input on what you thought. You know, we've discussed
I'm
this.
happy to, but I'd love to hear from Nick first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Kristen will have a very technical answer.
Yeah.
But I would just surmise, and I'm just going to guess here, but it would be just the uncharted growth, right? Just the development of trails that kind of go in the rogue, right? I think that's probably the biggest red flag. But to take a step back, I would like to commend you guys for all the work that you've done. The advocacy that you guys do is great. But I don't want to conflate the issues between maintenance and like strategic growth, right? I think you guys do a wonderful job with the upkeep and the maintenance, but I think, you know, talking about how this area might go away and things might have to move here and we need to do, like, I just want to make sure we're keeping those separate. And I think to get to your question, having that catalog will be much easier for us to identify this is what you can't do, this is what you can do, right? And it allows us to kind of give you that direct feedback of saying, oh, I'm going to make it up, we want to expand here, or we want to do a parking lot here, or I think that would be a lot easier for us as a commission to kind of work through. But that's my 2 cents. Sorry, Kristen.
Yeah, so, no, that's great. So from my perspective, so I've been here since '08, and I have seen a lot of trail growth. And I think, before we had the trails on the Shaftmaster property and the Rugg property, a lot of the erosion that we saw was use of trails that weren't designed for that level of use.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love this strategic trail design. And I love that we can think about, like, if we had a blank map, where is the right place to put trails? And not just for the recreation users. I have a wildlife background, so obviously that recreation is not the sole purpose for this property. It is for resource protection. And there are resources out there that show you what areas put wildlife or resources at risk if you build trails. It's the Trails for People and Wildlife. It's kind of a heat map in the opposite direction, like where should you avoid for trails. I will say we worked really hard when the trail building boom went to permit those trails through the state wetland trail permit by notification process, where we had bridges to get them officially approved. It cost money and it took time, and I want to be sure whatever we do here follows the right process, right? So there is a notification process with the state and an application that needs to be submitted, and they need to, it's like a 10-day approval process, and if you hear nothing, you're good to go. So technically, like that at a minimum, I think the commission should be sure is the make or break. Like, we need to follow the rules that are out there.
So
You're here advocating for wetlands.
That's for new structures.
It is. You shouldn't have a crossing of a wetland without that approval.
Right, but once you have gotten the approval and built one to maintain it, you don't need to keep going back, do you?
No, that's correct. Yeah. That gives you the permission to continue to
Okay.
maintain it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
If it was built without that approval?
It's a challenge, right? So it would take some work to go back and see, and I think our trail plan would be a good place to start, because I know Steve Shope did a huge inventory of a lot of the crossings that are out there, and all of those were permitted.
Okay.
But, there's been changes since then, and so how do we identify that? And then, I personally have advocated for a rest rotation approach for trails. I think we desperately need that because of the intensity of use that's happening now and is going to happen. And I think we need to think about property ownership, because why invest somewhere that we might lose, right? We want to focus on the lands. Obviously, this commission would focus on the lands that they have jurisdiction over.
Yeah.
But let's make those trails designed right for the level of intense use that we're talking about, and located somewhere that the resource can handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
But doing it the right way, and I didn't even know there was a process, so,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
well now.
But I do love, I am the Conservation Commission member so I do love all the advocacy. Toby has been amazing to ensure leaf blowing's a huge deal. I know it's controversial. I think he's done a great job, as has others, to advocate for the commission's policies. And so I think this is fantastic. I feel like we've been trying to get a trail committee meeting together for many years, and because they're kind of different entities and a little less formal, it's harder to work within the town process. But this is a great next step.
I would say I'd be happy to help work on trails. I don't want to add to your burden, I guess is why I'm a little.
I did not agree to a burden. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to provide the resources to help inform, where the riskier areas are, the resources that identify what we have permitted with the state, and advise from a resource perspective. But I don't want to be designing trails. That's not my expertise.
Right. So that's where I think we have to find somebody that can help reroute those trails.
Oh, we've got those guys.
We've got
plenty of men and women who are more than happy to do that and then work inside the boundaries of what will work, absolutely.
And I do think there's, I've been looking at the Oakland's parking lot, the Newfields entrance, to the Oakland's parking lot. There really, we don't, we don't have a wetland scientist who's delineated anything, but there really is a lot of upland there that I think we could work within. That would be a big capital expense, but it should be something, if there's a need to sort of shift that intensity, that could be a good lever to pull. Yep.
I've heard talk about demand on parking and overflow, and we would be remiss if we didn't jump back to Silas's public comment at the beginning, that Emerald Necklace approach, connecting this area to, residential areas of town could really help to mitigate the need for parking. So I would just really urge us to embrace what Silas gave us on input for public comment. Different thing than you came here to do, but the two things are connected.
So the main concern out there is wetlands is there any?
So I would say, I don't know.
Yeah. What I heard you say, it's multi-pronged.
Right.
It's wetlands, and that has a state approval to it. But then there's also resource areas that we should really try to avoid.
Right.
Because we're balancing recreation and the maintenance of natural resources. So those are the two things I heard you say. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that's right. And I didn't mention it, but intensity of use, the more dense the trail network is, and the Trails for People for Wildlife mapping talks about this, but the more dense the trails are, the less they are valued in terms of habitat from wildlife. And so if you do want that concentrated trail network, identify those areas that can withstand that and leave those sensitive areas less dense, I guess.
Road trails there.
Yeah, there's rogue trails, and I guess historically we've been opposed to the sort of spaghetti nature of mountain biking trail, like that style of mountain biking trail development within the town forest. That's being utilized in those other places, which is popular because of the density and the impact. Because it's one trail that really impacts a smaller area.
Right.
Is that still our opinion? I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone, but I guess I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's really calmed down in the past few years. The road trails getting thrown in, like on the Exeter side.
Right. We haven't.
In the town land, there really hasn't been.
Right. In terms of rogue trails.
Tried, and somebody's found it and shut it down.
But I think the concern when we always have, I don't know, I've been on Concom for like 6 years now, and it's happened a couple times. Just the barrier is so big of creating new trails. We say our concerns, and then it kind of stops momentum. So I agree with Dave on if we can prioritize a list even of repairs. I don't want to stop momentum, I guess, is my concern.
Yeah, well, I think.
But the new trails is tricky.
Nick was kind of saying the same thing, I think.
Yeah. Right.
I think we're all thinking the same thing.
So as long as we have open communication and strategize.
I think as long as we have the understanding that, okay, there's this type of work, please continue on with for now. And then when you get into the other type of work, maybe we'll have to have a little more consultation about that.
Yeah. And we plan to, in January, come back with at least January, or not at least January, but sometime over the next few meetings, with that list, with pictures and maps, and that map on the right is an initial map that shows property and wetlands. We have a few more layers going into that was supplied by NEMBA, local chapter of NEMBA. And so we can detail out with the various property owners and then also any other surveyors.
Get
find out about this heat map as well.
Yeah, just get a hold of me and we'll talk about when's the best time to be coming back in.
I'm happy to do exactly that.
Okay.
I think one other thing it would be kind of interesting if you could get a real time, like on a Sunday morning, view of where people were on that map at any given time and see how they're moving. And I think what you would see is in the bright spots, you would see lots of riders, all in those small spaces. And then in the spaces in between, in the dark spots, you'd see maybe a couple, and maybe a couple people going back and forth, but that's it. And so in that sense, the way this works is you kind of concentrate the activity in small areas, and then you kind of leave a lot of the space open and not nearly as much activity, which is, I think, good for the habitat.
If you come back with some ideas, hopefully we won't have an agenda as big as we often get. We could discuss them more. But we might have to revise the Trails Committee to have a meeting just of, could you consider the things that you bring forward. Some of the meetings we've had, it's going to be tough to find time to talk about it, but let's get it started.
Well, that's why I was telling him, get a hold of me and we'll figure it out.
You can control it, the agenda.
Try.
The other thing that I've been advocating through Toby, and I love these numbers because it really speaks to the volume of work and investment that you've made, is tracking and accounting the volunteer hours and the monetary investment that you're making out there, because we go before the budget committee to advocate for a budget, and having those numbers really provides a full picture where someday, if there's not volunteers there, we will have the ability to say this is really the kind of money it would take to maintain this property the way that it is.
The other reason to do that is your work could qualify as in-kind contribution for grant writing.
Yeah.
So, and we have the master of the grant writing right next to me here. So that's the other reason to track that work and the dollars.
Okay.
Because it could count as an in-kind contribution for a grant.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Great.
Keep up the good work.
Very exciting.
All right, next, I guess, let's get the last larger item out of the way, Rains Fire and Safety Review.
Skipping around.
Okay.
Everybody get a chance to read that?
I did.
I hope you read it, yeah. So, I shared it at a former meeting, but not much detail. The fire department had concerns for holding events at Rains, and it started with an application that we had for a farm-to-table event that I had requested from them a copy of an occupancy certificate that documents their support for how we could use the property, because that's what the applicant needed in order to hold his event. And that sort of opened up a new level of understanding, I guess, of how the commission might be thinking about events at Rains.
So that never happened, that event?
It did not happen. I think the reaction didn't necessarily match the type of event, but it just opened the eyes for the fire department to the types of events that we could be considering for Rains. And so, many conversations later, Jason Fritz, the deputy fire chief, put together basically, did the research. We visited Goss Farm. He talked with other fire, there's a title for it that I'm missing, and I'm sorry, but other fire structure analysis people. And came up with, basically, I had gone through the historic requirements and allowances for for fire code and sent some proposals to him. He digested them basically into an analysis and plan. That plan does have a list of things that they feel need to happen at Rains Barn before we can have events out there. And so I'll just step onto the highlights page in the packet because that summarizes it pretty clearly. At one point, we had talked about having use of the barn up to 100 people, I think is what our last year's density was. To be frank, I went back and looked at some of the busiest events that we've had, and that was if you remember, the pumpkin catapult event. I had photos from the interior of the barn of people in there. The most I ever saw was 38 people inside the barn at any one time. So I don't think that we're exceeding or coming close even to 50, never mind 100. So anyway, their allowance was 50 people on the main floor, 25 people on the ground floor. We'd need to visibly post that occupancy. We need a monitored fire alarm system to be installed and maintained. That is in process. The town manager approved funding through ARPA, I believe it was, to install that, and our building maintenance director has been working with a consultant to install that. It's not yet complete. Life safety equipment must be installed and maintained. Quite a bit of this, I think, is an easy lift-ish. Fire extinguishers, they need to be up to date and functional. They are currently not. Jeff Beck, the facilities manager, is working on that. I talked to Jason. It says panic hardware. I talked to him about just the lack of ability to have that on the doors. That's the push bar that opens the door. You can't do that on a barn door. And so the commitment to have the barn doors open during events was acceptable to him. Emergency lights and exit signs, that would be an expense that we'll need to get an estimate for and install. I think he understood what I said when I said, like, at least on the main floor, an exit sign would be smaller than the visibility of the door itself. There's no, if you can't find the door, without a sign, that would be challenging. And then the last one was egress doors. So Keith and Bill, you were out there 2 days ago or something, I can't remember. Yesterday. One of the issues was our doors opened inward and you need doors to open outward. So they worked with Stephen to come up with a way to do that and got that done for us, which is fantastic. So then the two remaining steps, in addition to the emergency light and the stuff Jeff Beck is working on, is developing an operational plan that we need to have Justin Pizon, the fire chief, approve, and an emergency action plan also that needs to be approved by Justin. So that's the status. Some of those things are things that we need to budget for, and I don't know what this stuff would cost. I don't have the answers yet, and I'm going to try as hard as I can to get those two plans developed, but it's new to me and I've got a full plate, so I'm trying really hard to get that done. I know we want Rains open yesterday, and I think we'll just have to work together. Like the stuff Keith, you helped with was fantastic. And then in terms of a solstice event, which is later on the agenda, there was additional conversation with Justin about that. So I think maybe now would be a good time to talk about that if you want to.
Yes, I spoke with Justin, and he was good with having a similar event that we had last year, which would be an outdoor event with the tour of the barn with somebody inside to sort of shepherd the crowd a little bit, just to say, hey, here, and have the doors open, obviously. And now the doors down below where the fire would be located near open out, so that can be easily accessed to have the cocoa and stuff like that, the cookies that we had last year. So we look forward to that. If it's all right, we'd like to have an event on the 21st. The solstice is Sunday, say like 3:30 before sunset, and going into probably wrap up at 6:30 or 7, depending on what everybody's mood would be for that. And the fire chief was certainly all right with that. Said that whatever we did last year was fine. And I always let them know the day before as a reminder that we're going to have that event. So it was a great conversation with them, and he was, basically he was saying, hey, can you kind of help us steer in the right direction of getting this done? And he was certainly very, very enthusiastic himself about that and wanted to get that done for us and work with us with that. So that was very, very encouraging. Very good conversation.
And he did follow up after that meeting with an email to Jeff Beck, just asking, the status of the fire detection system. So I'm unclear if this event is contingent on that being functional or not.
It is not. So again, an outdoor event with indoor tours.
Okay.
And the doors should be open. That's a 20-foot egress. There's two of them. And the bottom of the barn is, nearly a 4-foot egress, and there's two of those also, and they'll be opening out. So I think we're in good shape for the 21st. Going forward, if we were to do an indoor event, we would need to have these things certainly tightened up. And as far as they have the exit signs have as you can see, there's one right there. So they have the emergency lighting on them, which is kind of cool, and it's hardwired. So you don't need to get a separate emergency lighting to go with that setup. And he said they were fairly inexpensive, believe it or not. So I don't know what that meant, but so we'd probably need a total of 4 of those. So one for each above, like you said, the huge barn door. I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
I don't know that they were quantified. I thought Jason had just said one on each floor. But
Okay.
I'll find that out.
The emergency lighting piece is probably the bigger concern than the exit sign.
You need any funds for the solstice? To buy your hot chocolate and stuff?
Yeah, end of year funds here, guys. Let's figure this out. It's December. As the treasurer, I'd encourage us to use every penny that we can.
We certainly could we should use some better snacks than last year, if you want.
Your cookies were delicious.
Whatever. Yeah, we had I think we had the pecan sandies and the Oreos. It's all name brand.
$100 cover?
I'm not sure if we can beat that, but
Keith?
yeah, $100 would be great.
All right.
I motion we approve $100.
Second. Discussion?
Do we need to, I don't know.
Allocate it?
What,
Well, have him present receipts and then we'll.
what fund?
Conservation Land Administration.
Conservation Land Administration. Okay, $100 from the Conservation Land Administration. That's our motion.
Michelle from alternate.
Do you want me to vote?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Not, all those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Passes. Kristen has some news on Stone Farm mowing.
Yeah.
Well, before, on rains though, do we want to appropriate can we please appropriate other money towards these? I mean, if we have an opportunity here in our Conservation Land Administration budget.
I think that's a great idea. So
like
just
500.
overview what you have for available funds.
Yeah.
So Conservation Land Administration has $850 available in it, and then you have $638 available in contract services. It would be great to have like a not to exceed that full amount for the purposes of meeting the fire management plan requirements.
So moved.
If we could
And you
afford
got
it.
fire, you got fire extinguishers.
The motion would be,
I can't.
The Conservation Commission would allocate up to $1,438 towards meeting the requirements of the fire department for safety requirements of the fire department. Is that what you're looking for?
That sounds.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Keith seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Don't I'll let your
Unanimous.
money slide into the unassigned fund.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well done.
Well done.
All right. Any other committee reports?
Yeah, so the stone property that we started talking
Oh, that's
about.
right, yeah.
I sort of took advantage of the waning mowing window. We, as you know, had been converting through regular mowing the stone property off Powder Mill Road, which is that triangle piece on the south side of Powder Mill Road by the gas line and the railroad tracks. We had been regularly mowing it to convert it to pasture. And I had reached out to several folks that I was hoping would hay it, use it for hay, and I did not have success finding anyone interested in mowing that small piece for hay. So I had an opportunity to have a contract with Kevin Breen, who has done our other field mowing. So I spoke with Dave, and he was supportive of using $1,200 in our combination of contract services and our mowing. So that has been expended to date, but I thought it was important to inform you all of that. Yeah.
So that was included in that was before November 30th?
Yep.
And
Yep, that
is
was
this his
withdrawn.
first year? David O'Hearn is
Yeah,
now
so
retired.
David has retired. So Kevin Breen is kind of the only person out there that does this kind of work.
And it's been going fine.
Yep,
the
he's
site.
done a great job. Most of the mowing, we had extra funds available in mowing because we had the grant, the
Right.
stewardship grant that we received. And so this helped kind of use up the remaining funds for that.
That's good. That's awesome. You're able to keep that because that site has been challenging.
We do need to look at that for next year for rains around the barn.
I agree.
Some way of keeping that tight so that that's always kept to, a decent height to avoid ticks, et cetera. And, so we need to have that on our radar for next year of having that, be out in front of it rather than let it get to be 2 feet tall and say, oh, we got to, see if we can beg DPW to get out there or something like that. So,
Right. I remember you talked about having getting a mower out there, leave somehow.
yeah, I'd be glad to mow it. If I had a mower, I have access to one. I certainly can get one, but I'm borrowing, so.
Yeah.
If we had one that was,
Just seemed like we need to invest in a mower for that property.
yeah, it'd be tough to, I'm fearful of getting anything with any fuel anywhere near the barn. So I need to store it somewhere else. So, it's a little bit of a conundrum there, but.
You should give a mouse a cookie, and you have to build a shed.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got
Exactly.
all your projects lined up for next year. all
Yeah,
of a
we
sudden.
just want to keep that in your mind. We need to figure out a
Keith
way
needs new projects.
to make that to make that happen so that it's always looking good. Because I think that next year early, talking to Stephen, he's saying that he only needs about 25 days of work to get that done. So it's possible to have that done in April or early May. So that would be awesome. And at that point, we'd need to be mowing and ready, up and running, use our money that we just appropriated for fire compliance, and then roll. So.
And we did shift funding in the budget. We, in the budget proposal, we took funding from the interns, so we won't have interns next year, and increased our request for conservation land administration. So I think you and I should I know you gave me some numbers for what it would cost if we had to hire out that mowing. We should really put that together and have those numbers, just to see how they fit within that budget.
Yeah, so connected to this is if you go and mow something that is 2.5 feet tall, you have to mow it twice, right? And if you go and mow it and it's only 6, 7, 8 inches tall, well, you only have to mow it once. And so it's half the time and half the money. Not quite half the money, but less money. You know what I mean? So it's really time. If you were to hire a service and it took them 4 hours to mow that, or if you were to hire that same, because it was 2.5 feet tall, you had to hire that same service and they could do it in 2, well, your price is going to be a lot less. See what I mean? So it's the time amount of time between mowings. It's really the issue on the cost.
So maybe you and I should map out what those costs would be, including porta potty,
Yes.
and come back in February or March with like, this is what we anticipate.
Sounds
the
good.
rains needs would be.
Maybe we could have the guy who takes care of Swayze, John, take a look at that, because he does Swayze very reasonable.
Yeah, and he's close, same road.
Well, he's going to be
Right.
heading right down the road, yeah. Yeah, he's very, very reasonable.
Does a nice job, too.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, if we can get the property in a good shape, then it can become a venue.
Yeah.
And then it will generate money. I mean, it's sort of the cycle. We have to invest
Right.
a little bit more, continue to invest more in rains, and it will become a real asset for the town.
Exactly. And things like poison ivy and other invasive species love neglect. So if you can keep them back, they stay back.
Well, it's beautiful when it's mowed. All right. So was there any other committee reports? No?
No.
All right. We could talk about approving the minutes from the November 12th meeting. Anybody have anything they need to point out? As usual, a stellar job taking minutes. All right, motion? Make a motion, we approve the minutes from November, what was it? 12th.
I second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? None. Okay, end of year expenses, I think we just took care of that. Correct? Any correspondence?
No.
Nope. All right, our next meeting is the 13th of January of '26, and submission deadline is the 1st of January. So if nobody else has anything, I would like to call this meeting over at 8:09.
Yeah, second it.
Okay, no discussion, I'm assuming. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.